We happy? Vincent! We happy?
Yeah, we happy.
So we've had a look at some of the games from the good old days of Ubisoft, and most of them gave me a relatively positive experience. Well, most of them did anyway. But now we're getting to the really meaty stuff, where Ubisoft's homebred franchises established in their previous era really come into their own, being able to take advantage of the new technology of the 7th generation of consoles and continue from where they left off. I personally believe that this was the pinnacle of Ubisoft's ideas and their innovations as well, where their games were just good, consistent, clean fun. And they weren't just great games due to their gameplay, but there were some great stories told here as well. However, there were unfortunately a few glimmers of what will come one day. But for me, Ubisoft have always been responsible for some of my best gaming memories. Besides Halo and Battlefield and, sadly, Destiny. But, you know, I digress.
Ezio. Ezio Auditore da Firenze. Insieme per la vittoria! You have no money for this doctor of yours.
Wasted it on women and wine, huh?
I'd hardly call it wasted.
In my office is a hidden door. Use your talent to find it. Beyond lies a chest. Take everything you find inside. Much of it may seem strange to you, but all of it is important. Do you understand?
Yes.
Good.
Starting off incredibly strong with the staple franchise of Ubisoft, and that is Assassin's Creed, but more specifically, its sequel. My first notable experience with Assassin's Creed was getting one of those Xbox magazines back in the day, which had a disc with a couple of demos on it. I think there was like Devil May Cry, the remake, but there was also Assassin's Creed Revelations on there. And I had dabbled with Assassin's Creed before at a friend's house, but like most 18-rated games around that time, I wasn't really allowed to play those at home because, I don't know, I think Mummy and Daddy didn't really like me killing actual people, but they were absolutely fine with, you know, unprecedented alien slaughter. But luckily my friend's parents didn't really care what media he consumed, so I was able to pop around there and play some of these games. It was soon after that I managed to find Assassin's Creed 2, which was actually rated at 15 here in the UK, and it was also much cheaper than the shiny new one, so I managed to pop down to my local game station, and yeah, I was absolutely blown away. So taking place almost immediately after the plot of the first game, we follow Desmond Miles as he is led to an assassin's safe house after a daring escape from Amazon in the present day.
I would love for it to be after I'm dead.
With one Lucy Stillman, who definitely doesn't have a conflicting past. And this is in order to use the genetic memories of Desmond's ancestors, which connect him to 15th century Renaissance Italy, putting him ahead of Ezio Auditore di Firenze. All things seem splendid as our newly found comically Italian womanizer Ezio gets in fights.
Your sister seemed quite satisfied with the handling I gave her earlier.
And does favours for his familia, but that wouldn't make for a very interesting video game, would it?
Porco!
Ezio, my friend. Ah, ma che te piglia?
So events take a bit of a turn as his father and two brothers are imprisoned.
What happened? Where is everyone?
They took your father and brothers to the Palazzo della Signoria, to prison.
And turn into pretty little Christmas decorations, leaving Ezio to protect the remnants of his family while discovering the mysterious past of his father. Ezio starts off on a dangerous path of revenge to track down those responsible with the help of a colourful cast of characters such as Leonardo da Vinci and Mario.
Don't you recognize me? It's me, Mario!
So then he can learn the skills and, to quote Jon Snow, stick them with the pointy end.
First lesson, stick them with the pointy end.
When comparing this game to the later entries in the series, I think Assassin's Creed 2 is rather tame in terms of its present-day sort of sci-fi narrative, but as we get further into the later games, it does get, you know, insane.
I want to know. I want to know.
But when looking at this story in a vacuum, it's fantastic. It's got a classic revenge narrative embedded in it, which can sometimes fall quite flat, but here the game takes its time to set up his family just enough so we can have some sort of emotional attachment to them before we see them get turned into those pretty little Christmas decorations. It's my personal second favourite Assassin's Creed game, and for good reason. Although the first game was revolutionary for many reasons, sort of blending that action parkour and the sort of self in a fresh way, it was also pretty boring. Assassin's Creed 2 is Ubisoft seeing how they can develop their open world action formula to new heights and learn from their shortcomings of the previous entry. Being able to see and control Ezio through his humble beginnings, its fall when he sees his family die, to the highs of him having a fist fight with the Pope, there's a reason that this is my second favourite game. It all just flows so well and comes together in a neat little bow, with a little bit of sequel bait, of course. Normally I ignore the present day plotline as I find it to be such a pace killer, and it's just way less interesting than what the narrative is for when they're going back into the times of history. But in Assassin's Creed 2 it's actually kind of interesting if you like that sort of thing. It's crazy, but it's interesting. Assassin's Creed 2 is a game about assassins, you know, people which usually blend in with their surroundings, dispatch their targets without a trace, but here the stealth isn't very good. It has its moments, you know, nothing quite beats stalking your target through the mission and then, you know, pouncing on them for a satisfying kill and then hiding from the Templars by taking a nice little seat and enjoying the view. But Assassin's Creed 2 is mainly fantastic for setting up your target, and I think that can be attributed to its really strong narrative. Some of the targets aren't as interesting as the others, but the ones which are have a nice little string of missions to set them up, telling you what little shit they are and give you some sort of reason to politely insert your blade into their jugular instead of just telling you through sort of exposition. Being only really sort of the second iteration of the combat, we have the El Clasico hold block and press counter button. It's easy, very basic, but initially I forgot what the button was, and you can clearly tell in like the initial bit where I found it out, and then it was just bang, everything was just so easy.
I understand it now.
But honestly, I'm not playing Assassin's Creed for deep detail and mechanically heavy-based combat, something like I would do for Minecraft, I suppose. I want to see Ezio murder Templars and look cool while doing it. Going back and replaying it, I was amazed about how good this game still looks. Apart from some of the faces, but the cities you visit themselves, they all look fantastic. I think Venice was definitely my favourite. I think all the architecture there is just beautiful anyway, but the way it's shown here is somehow it still holds up really well. Ubisoft's team have always shown their expertise at crafting expansive and good-looking open worlds, whether that be cityscapes or sort of the entire planets they've been trying to do with Star Wars Outlaws. Although they may look good, Ubisoft have always had a problem with filling these worlds with things that are actually interesting to do. You get a real hint of the future here. The map is a bit of a mess. There's so many icons and collectibles, it's just yucky and messy. But it's manageable, you know, compared to later iterations. There are plenty of things to do outside of the narrative, such as delivering letters like the average Royal Mail postie, except this time it's actually on time.
Nice.
There's even races, which sort of allow the parkour of this game to flourish. There's also being a wise guy from The Sopranos, which was a personal favourite.
Fuck you, Santa!
And then there's also feather collecting, which initially I was like, what the hell is this? But then you realise that Ezio's younger sibling used to collect these feathers, and obviously because he was turned into a lovely little Christmas decoration, his mother is traumatised and is sort of like non-verbal, and as you collect these feathers, she then begins to start speaking again. So it's quite a nice sort of thing to do. It's a shame that there's 100 of them. I was like, 100? What the I can't be bothered to do all that. I'm afraid, Madre, you'll have to stop speaking, as I cannot be bothered to go around and collect all the feathers. But, you know, we can't forget the committing murders, and the committing murders, and, the committing murders, there seem to be quite a lot of assassination in this Assassin's Creed game. There are so many assassination missions, but, who would have thunk, eh? The parkour in this iteration is great. It's still a little rough around the edges, the directional movement is a little bit questionable, but for 2009, this fluid sort of gameplay was kind of rare. Honestly, this game truly shows what a sequel should be like, doing everything better than its predecessor in terms of its narrative, which isn't just a bunch of old men talking at you in a room, to even improving the combat in terms of its style and animations, not necessarily its depth. There's also the entire part of rebuilding and restoring the Auditore Villa, which is just something for you to dump all your loose cash into, but it does add some more attachment to that part of the game, considering in Brotherhood it gets immediately blown to pieces. Assassin's Creed 2 is many people's favourite in a franchise, and I get it. It's great. It's got probably the best plot in the whole franchise. Ezio's a great character, but for me, it's just sort of, missing something.
Secure the convoy. Engage all targets. Close on the target. Okay, let's go. Predator, get out of there. Move! Get clear! Get clear! Move! Run! Go! 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 Go!
Our unit's never been hit this hard before.
We're good to go, sir.
All right then, let's go get these sons of bitches that did this.
Next up, we have a game from one of Ubisoft's most recognisable franchises. A franchise which has unfortunately been laying dormant for some time, considering its most recent iteration was absolutely diabolical. But sadly, there's a few games we could apply that definition to. But the game I went for this time was Ghost Recon Future Soldier. Set in the not-so-distant future of 2024, the opening of the game follows the totally ungenerically named gentleman called Joe Ramirez, who leads a 4-man Ghost Recon squad to Nicaragua to disrupt a weapons trafficking operation in the region. As they inspect the convoy that they just ambushed, they discover a dirty bomb which is then remotely detonated, killing the team in a rather brutal fashion. In response to this event, a new Ghost team designated Hunter is deployed to track down the source of the weapon and deliver some swift justice to those responsible. However, things spiral out of control when they make a shocking discovery, and the plot escalates to one of a global threat. Honestly, I found this plot to be extremely generic, similar to something like Vegas 2 in that way, but Vegas 2 had kind of like a dual narrative because it was acted as a sequel as well as a prequel, so it dipped between the two. But this one is just sort of played straight all the way through. And it's not necessarily a bad thing, because a game like this doesn't really need to have a great plot. What needs to be good is that gameplay, because otherwise there literally is no hook to keep you invested. It's got a good blend of action and some very impressive mission design, as well as some cool set pieces. It's even got a few twists to keep you awake during those cutscenes for good measure, so it's nothing terrible. The main complaint for me is more of its characters. They are just so generic, it is almost an achievement. Not every character written ever needs to have some sort of caricature, or some sort of quirk like the out of your friends, which are you?
Truck freak, crazy ass.
But, you know, forgive me for wanting a little more in my shooter campaigns. While playing, I couldn't help but keep sort of comparing it to a Call of Duty campaign. It really felt that kind of, the same kind of vibe. They're both relatively light on plot, but their impressive set pieces and tight gameplay, as well as their likeable characters, are what keep you invested.
What the hell kind of name is Soap, eh? How'd a muppet like you pass selection?
Knife the watermelon. Nice. Your fruit killing skills are remarkable.
I'd argue the original Modern Warfare campaigns actually have an excellent plot, but it's more the attachment that you have to its characters which help you stay in the moment and not get tired of all the explosions, because otherwise it just becomes a lot of noise. While in Ghost Recon, I feel like it has more the ingredients to reach that level, but its writing is just lacking in that department, making this plot feel quite lackluster to me. It's clear that Ghost Recon Future Soldier wasn't designed around having a gripping story. Well, I hope it wasn't anyway. The main focus is obviously the gameplay, and yeah, it's pretty good. Although Vegas 2 does have a sort of relative tactical feel to it, Ghost Recon feels like it's much more of a focus here, putting an emphasis on sort of squad-based tactics, stealth sections as well, and somewhat strategic planning for how you tackle the situation. I normally loathe failure if caught missions, if it doesn't feel appropriate, so if it's not like tied to the narrative, even then I find it a bit exhausting. Because it just feels like it really narrows the gameplay variety. But in Ghost Recon, it works to serve the game. The introduction of optical camouflage is really cool as well. I think that's always cool tech, but the way that it's told is just so well done. And, you know, like although it's like futuristic tech, they make it feel grounded in the sense that you cannot sprint or do too much motion, as it cannot sustain too much of that motion, otherwise it just simply turns off. It's not like something like insanely futuristic like you get in Halo with the active camo, where you're basically invisible to the AI as well. The AI in this game can still spot you if you get too close, which makes sense given the way that it looks. And although this game has gone for a more futuristic approach, it certainly still feels quite grounded, plays by its own rules, which I think is always important when you go for this sort of setting. Ghost Recon is normally known for its semi-realistic military scenarios, the use of weapons and the technology, so it would feel like a bit of a departure if they went full Titanfall or something. I think the customization here is also rather in-depth, allowing for a lot of attachments for your loadouts rather than just simple optic adjustments. You can change the triggers to increase different rates of fire, select fire, and the gas, which I found surprisingly in-depth as well. It felt like the modern day iteration of a Call of Duty gunsmith system if I had to draw a comparison. It's even got a firing range attached to it. Some of the set pieces and firefights are absolutely excellent. There was one in particular where you're fighting through like a highway, similar to like a jumped up Michael Bay version of the Sicario scene. There's no music. It's just the sound of gunfire which pollutes the soundscape, the twang of metal and the cries of the people that you're killing. It sounds horrible, but it was very impressive and very immersive. I believe a big part of this game especially was its co-op and online multiplayer components, which sadly have been taken offline. I think it was June 2024. So I feel like I have missed quite a big part of this package. I can see how the co-op especially would be very fun, but I was unfortunately just left with the kind of average single player experience. And it's worth noting, unlike the other games on this list, Ghost Recon ran without a hitch. I experienced a lot of aches with the other ones, but overall this game was just okay, you know. There's nothing special by no means, but it wasn't bad either. It was definitely an enjoyable experience overall. I believe it would have been much better with the server still available, so you can see these mechanics in a multiplayer setting as well, but unfortunately, I do not own a time machine.
Can I ever tell you what the definition of insanity is? Insanity is doing the exact same fucking thing over and over again, expecting shit to change. That is crazy. The first time somebody told me that, I don't know, I thought they were bullshitting me, so I shot him. The thing is, he was right.
Far Cry 3. Similarly with Assassin's Creed, I didn't play Far Cry till a bit later, and again, my first experience with Far Cry 3 was at a friend's house, and again, his parents had no qualms with the violent media that he consumed. I also remember watching the Rad Blad play this one, specifically, what go. And yeah, once again, I eventually managed to get my hands on it, and once again, surprise, surprise, I was absolutely blown away. It's worth noting that this game was not smooth sailing to get running on my PC. In fact, it barely ran at all. So keep that in mind. If you're intending on replaying this on PC, just please check some forums, as they did help me get it running for a bit, but it was very inconsistent. So I ended up just playing it on my comically dusty Xbox, as it got to the point in the game it wouldn't even stay open for 15 minutes before spontaneously combusting. But unfortunately, that's just another game added to the list of forsaken games from Ubisoft that just aren't supported anymore. When America's most American man, Jason Brody, skydives onto an incredibly safe-looking island with his brothers and friends, they soon realise that they aren't actually in Kansas anymore. Soon after they arrive, they are captured by the totally sane and friendly aristocrat Voss.
Do you want me to slice you open like I did your friend? Shut the fuck up!
Who plans to sell them on eBay. Aww. But Jason soon manages to escape the camp, thanks to the skills of his perfectly alive and well ex-military brother.
Yes, we're gonna find him, we're gonna free the others, and then we're going home.
And with the help of the island's freshest individual,
I am Dennis.
Jason begins his journey from insufferable American frat boy to stone cold killer and blade of the people. I love the story of Far Cry 3. I think it's a simple plot, but the way it's told through its gameplay is just done so well. For games like Uncharted and Red Dead 2,
Buddy, shut up, mister! Yeah, shut your mouth, mister!
there's this concept called ludonarrative distance, which is when a game's gameplay is conflicting with its narrative, and it can be a bit of an issue for some. Role-playing as the honourable thief or outlaw, but committing mass murder for an explosive set piece, as any sad cowboy reflecting on all the horrible stuff he's done would.
I still don't believe in nothing.
1 hour later.
In Far Cry, it doesn't have this effect. Well, mostly anyway. Having Jason's descent into insanity being reflected in its villains as well as its gameplay, with your skills that are gradually unlocked through various violent feats being shown on the tattoo that you have on your left arm. As the lives you take pile up and you begin to become a more effective killer, you know, the way that you talk to your friends changes, the way that they react to you does too.
Did you see that explosion?
You think almost being killed or sold into slavery is fun?
Hey, Lisa, calm down.
All of this in combination makes for a believable and tangible narrative that doesn't suffer too much from the ludonarrative distance that plagues so many games that go for this sort of thing. I feel like in games which go for this sort of narrative, it's critical to make the player feel attached or part of the character that they are controlling, having you feel responsible for those actions, perhaps even remorseful as well. Making them understand that what you've done violates a few of the 10 commandments, and the way that it's highlighted to you in subtle ways, or the not so subtle ways. It's a credit to Ubisoft's writers and designers to pull this off in such an effective way, which makes Far Cry 3 easily my favourite of the franchise. And I feel like you can't talk about Far Cry 3 without at least discussing Voss as well.
Hello.
It goes without saying that Voss is an incredible villain, and a perfect reflection of what Jason is merely just dipping his fingers into. The fantastic and iconic dialogues which plagued the marketing, highlighting the actions of the player themselves, and an outstanding performance for Ignacio Varga himself. And it all just sells it so well.
Sorry, I don't like the way you are looking at me, okay?
much smarter people than me have really delved and dissected this character, and I'll link a couple of those videos in the descriptions. I think it's really interesting. It's just such a cool character, even on the surface level, and the way that it was formed as well. There's a great little like Vidoc about how he got the part and how it sort of developed into what it was. It was just all really cool. And this game really started the whole Far Cry is led by its villain thing that they went with. You know, in Far Cry 4 they had Pagan Min, which was played by Troy Baker, and he was okay, but it was just like being a villain for villain's sake. I couldn't really get behind it too much.
Please, stay right here. Enjoy the crab rangoon.
In Far Cry 5 they had Joseph Seed, the guy that was just in love with God, but he was nuts. I just thought he was really weird, and he had that really weird snot bubble that would dangle when he was like screaming at you.
By a snake in the garden!
And then in Far Cry 6 they got Giancarlo Esposito, and I played an hour and a half of that game and it was dreadful, so I didn't even make it that far of that one. But I feel like with Vars it's just never going to be topped, and if it does then, you know, kudos, but I'd be very surprised if they ever managed to get past that. Far Cry 3's gameplay, in short, is the best in the franchise, I believe. The movement feels fluid and responsive, the weapons feel amazing to use with a good level of recoil as to not make them feel floaty and archaic. There's some decent customization as well. You can add between 1 and 2 attachments to certain weapons. The stealth mechanics, although basic, work very well. So well, in fact, that they haven't changed them in over 12 years. It does well in making you feel like an action hero as well. Which is good at distracting you from the impressive body count that you stack up. But again, that does lead to the sort of the ludonarrative dissonance. But it's all really well animated though. I mean, some of those kills are like, damn, bro. But with regards to the sort of open sandbox approach to game design which Ubisoft takes with these Far Cry games especially, I think it's really good here. In terms of there's like outposts dotted around the map, and you can take them out in pretty much any way that you choose. Obviously it's limited by the sandbox, but you can go stealthy with a sniper rifle and just pick them off from afar. You can go with a suppressed pistol like an American James Bond, God forbid. And just go in there and just sort of take them out one by one. But you can also just go guns blazing. One of the favourite things I enjoyed doing was finding like a truck with a mounted MG, just parking myself nicely outside and just hosing them all down. It was just very fun, very satisfying, and yeah, it was good. But I believe this is where the infamous radio towers were introduced, and they sparked many years of frustration. And yeah, I get it. They are, you know, they're okay in this one because, you know, it's only one game, but then like they were in every single one afterwards. So yeah, it was just very repetitive and formulaic game design, which just really aged the franchise very quickly. Similar to Assassin's Creed 2, there are quite a few side missions that add more layers of things to do when you aren't tracking your friends or giving pirates new holes to breathe from. There's, you know, similar to Assassin's Creed, there's like the assassination missions. There's the hunting missions, which is like take a shotgun and go kill a bear, which is quite funny. The supply drop missions, where you do pretty much like a little race. There's also races as well. And then they also have like the more conventional side quests as well. But yeah, I just think it just fleshes out the game. It's already quite a long game, but this just sort of makes the world feel a bit more alive. There's this idea that's thrown around throughout the game called sort of like the learning to bend the jungle to your will, as Dennis likes to tell you.
Go. You return to me once you have mastered the jungle.
What does that mean? What am I supposed to do?
And I feel like that's just great because it's reflected in its gameplay. You know, you have to harvest various plants which can give you health or, you know, allow you to see through walls, that sort of thing. But there's just the hunting as well. And the hunting plays a big part in the progression, as you have to find and skin certain animals in order to upgrade various parts of your gear. You know, you need to upgrade that wallet to hold more of that blood money, you know, and, you know, to craft more holsters to allow you to diversify the ways in which you tackle those outposts and kill pirates. But again, it all just reinforces this idea of Jason learning and adapting to the ways of the jungle and slowly becoming a force to be reckoned with. Once again, I find that when a game's mechanics lends itself to the narrative and assist in building it, it makes for a much more cohesive and immersive experience. And it really just shows the ability of the developers behind it. There's a lot to talk about when it comes to Far Cry 3. I think it is Ubisoft's best game, the creme de la creme, if you will. Well, besides Just Dance, obviously, but that kind of goes without saying. I could recommend this game to anyone on a whim who hasn't played it. It's got surprisingly good visuals for a game from 2012. It holds up quite well. It's got a great story, the gameplay is addictive, and it's the reason that the franchise has never quite topped this, and it's because it's an absolute masterpiece, in my opinion.
Of insanity.
I've seen your face before. You's mates with them pirates down in Nassau.
Shut your fucking gob or I'll fill it with shots, you hear me?
Edward, is it?
Assassin's Creed Black Flag is the best Assassin's Creed game.
Keep talking.
But seriously, this game is incredible. It was the second game I had on my PS4, so it's got a real special place in my heart. The first being Destiny, sadly. But I've played this game so many times across a fair few years. Some people say it's the best AC game because it's the AC game, which doesn't feel like, you know, an Assassin's Creed game. And I kind of see the argument, but at the same time, all of the Assassin's Creed DNA is there, but it's just been applied and expanded upon, and just to, you know, the best setting in the franchise. And set in the 18th century, Assassin's Creed Black Flag follows the charismatic yet ill-tempered Edward Kenway, a Welsh privateer turned pirate who finds himself caught up in the age-old conflict between the Assassins and the Templars. After Edward is shipwrecked, he kills an assassin and assumes his identity, finding a package and instructions on him. Not knowing what lays ahead, Edward delivers the package to the Templars in Havana. He then gains their trust, temporarily.
What is your true name, rogue? It's, Captain Pissoff.
And learns of a device called the Observatory, a mysterious device which is said to be able to track anyone in the world through their blood. After being discovered by the Templars and imprisoned, Edward escapes and captures a Spanish vessel, where he then sails to seek the aid of some of his old allies, such as Blackbeard, Charles Thane, and Jack the Kid, all in pursuit of this grand prize which he, the Templars, and the Assassins are chasing after. Assassin's Creed Black Flag's story is simple, but it's great. Edward is a fascinating protagonist because he is just a bit of a prick for a lot of the game. He's your standard pirate, only doing things for the promise of plunder at the end. Otherwise, to him, it's just pointless. Although most of the plot is driven by building up your pirate empire and sticking it to the Spanish and the British who disagree with all the pillaging, it's the actual story of Edward himself which I find to be the real hook. We get some flashbacks every now and then to when he gave up his job as a simple farmer as he believed to be able to achieve a better life than be a rich man's tool. We see his relationship with his wife and how he destroyed it with his drunken dreams and drove her away. He is a flawed character with bad intentions, wanting more for his life, which, you know, you can understand, but he's just going about it in the wrong way. He begins his journey as a selfish, murderous prick. And you know, he ignores the warnings from the Assassins about working for the Templars, but Edward just doesn't care. He just smells gold and fortune. But as his friends begin to slowly drop off, either being blown to pieces or just simply betraying him or leaving him because they just don't agree with what he's doing, he's so blinded by this goal of the Observatory and what the fortune in it bring him that he just ignores all of these sort of like tales from this average Geordie Shore guy.
What kind of fish is Nemo? Aquarium, no.
that leads him to the observatory and then just betrays him. You can clearly tell he's not a very nice man. He doesn't really have a regard for human life. And then Edward's just like, yeah, sure, mate, yeah, no, go on, let's go.
Oh, such ambition.
Edward begins to then reflect on his decisions, and this is the key moment. This is when he realizes the destructive path that he's been on, and what the Templars will do when they find the observatory themselves, which leads to him finally teaming up with the assassins to prevent the use of the observatory in an incredible change of character.
Jesus, Eddie, what the hell happened here? You happened here, Edward. The damage you caused 6 years ago has not been undone.
I'm not an easy man to call a friend, am I? Is that why you're here?
To fight beside a man so driven by personal gain and glory is a hard thing, Edward. And I have come to feel the assassins and their creed a more honorable course. Have I been unfair?
No. For years I've been rushing around taking whatever I fancied, not giving a tinker's curse for those I hurt. And yet here I am, with riches and a reputation, feeling no wiser than when I left home. Yet when I turn around, look at the course I've run, there's not a man or woman that I love left standing beside me.
There is time to make amends, Captain Kenway.
Mary. Before she died, she asked me to do good by her, to sort out the mess I made. Can you help me?
It feels earned, and it feels built upon. Sometimes these kind of like flip and flops, turning to the dark side or the light side, can feel really unearned, but once again, at Rise of Skywalker, I am looking at you. People are going to start thinking that I really hate that film, and well, they're right. I feel like with Edward, you get it, you really do, just because of the way it's developed. I just think it's done really well. And by the end of the journey, Edward has lost pretty much everything that he went out to seek. You know, much of his allies are dead, all the money that he got has been lost, but he finally understands the value of things greater than the gold, and that being freedom, purpose, and family, which then leads him to join the assassins. It's a simple plot, like I said, but it's elevated heavily by its setting, and Edward, I think the VA, the voice actor for Edward, does an amazing job. I thought it was Charlie Hunnam at first, I don't know why, but it's all sold so well, and this tale works in the pirate setting especially. I don't know if it would work in other instances, just because there's sort of the greed and all of that. I think it all just really works well when you're developing sort of like a pirate character. But enough rambling about the story, let's just talk about the main reason that this game is incredible. Black Flag's gameplay is the pirate game every fan of Pirates of the Caribbean has ever dreamed of. A truly open world where you can traverse the various isles dotted around the map, attack any ship and board it, build up your vessel as well as your own pirate cove. Just every aspect of this game complements its setting and uses it to its best. The ship combat is excellent. It is a little bit basic by today's standard, but Ubisoft haven't been able to top that 10 years later, so what do you guess, you know? Upgrading your jackdaw and making it into a force to be reckoned with is such a good feeling, you know. Once you get to feel the real progression through struggling with certain levels of ship, but then you're just ripping through Spanish fleets like they are merely made of MDF, and then boarding them to relieve the ship of its passengers politely. It just never gets old. The pirate fantasy carries this game. It's what makes this stand out from all the other Assassin's Creed games, as it's just so fresh and unique, and it hadn't really been done before, especially on this scale. There's lots to do as well with regards to the ship. There's the standard upgrades, which do well at making your ship seem more and more powerful as you progress. There's fortresses that you can take with powerful defenses, which gave me quite a bit of trouble at some point. There are, of course, hunting missions to upgrade everyone's personal gear. I feel like every game has that Ubisoft made after Far Cry 3. Deep sea treasure hunting is quite cool as well. It's mainly, it can get a bit tedious, but I think the underwater setting really shines here. I think all the visuals just look great. And there's the ship contracts as well, which are pretty much the Assassin's contracts, but you're just sort of going after fleets. And there's the legendary ship battles, which are really hard, some of them, but they are so cool. You have to play them if you haven't already. It's all just so well fleshed out, and there's always something to sail towards with the shanties at your back to keep the morale up.
To hide your head, Delpos, we're all out over the mountain. Up socks your cocks and her too much.
But it's not just a great game on the seas. Where the real Assassin's Creed DNA shines here is in the small towns and cities you visit, like Havana and Nassau. Once again, Ubisoft know how to design an open world. The towns look excellent. It's really like sort of fit the setting. They feel good to traverse. The parkour in this AC game is well utilized, especially when you're climbing up the rigging of a ship to get a better angle on a ship's captain. Oh, it's just brilliant. There's plenty of stuff to do on land as well. Lots of island secrets to discover. There's standard synchronization points as well. As the Assassin's Creed contracts, there's plenty of them. But the main reason I go ashore is to get those sea shanties, brother. In terms of the actual combat, it's really quite similar to what it is in the previous games. Assassin's Creed 2, I said in that part as well, it's like all the leading from Assassin's Creed 1 all the way to probably Syndicate, I think. Yeah, the combat is very sort of counter and just, you know, watch the pretty animations play, but it works for this game. It doesn't need to be anything too ridiculously deep. They do add some layers throughout each one. I like how in this one you can pick up other weapons, and then they also have like their own sort of animations and stuff. The axe, the big two-handed axe, is a personal favourite. There is some especially brutal kills with that. But yeah, it's nothing deep, but it's just cool, you know? The one thing which kind of lets this game down, in my opinion, is some of its mission design for its main missions. I think tailing missions are an infamous part of Assassin's Creed games. They are such a pace killer. Even more so than the future plot, or the present day plot. But for some reason, they just wanted to advance the formula by adding ship tailing missions. Like, why? I simply don't understand. I swear people have always been like, please just stop doing that. But they're just like, oh, I think we will do more of that actually. Like, what are you doing? But luckily, most of the other missions are just your standard affair, feeling less formulaic as some of the AC games. It's just heavily elevated by its incredible setting. It's just a shame there's that one little tarnish of those fucking tailing missions. Yeah, you must understand, I really don't like these missions, okay? Right. At this point, I have played through so many Assassin's Creed games. I think I've done every single one up to Odyssey. I played a little bit of Origins, played a little bit of Odyssey, but I think I've done every single one. Yeah, maybe apart from the mobile games, but I've played through pretty much all of them and finished them. So there's very clearly a formula there, but Black Flag is just by far my favourite. Does it have the best plot in the series? No. Does it have one of the best characters? Yes. Does it have the best gameplay? Yes. Does it have the best mission design? Mostly. But does it have the best setting? Oh my god, yes. Caribbean is such a unique and cool setting, and they utilised it so well. There is a reason that this game is so highly regarded amongst fans of the series, and I believe the setting is such a big part of that. It's so fresh and different, it's just what the franchise needed. I can only hope that they keep this level of innovation and expansion up in their later iterations. Those were some of the games that I believe were part of this golden age of Ubisoft, where all the innovation and the ideas were just really coming through and shining, and it's where my favourite Ubisoft games were released. Unfortunately, I believe that this is the pinnacle, and you know, once you get to a pinnacle, the only way is down, alright? And in the next video, we'll be talking about a critical year of Ubisoft and the real turning point of the opinions on them as well. And that is 2014. Okay, we've got Watch Dogs, alright? We've got Assassin's Creed Unity, okay? Those are the two big ones, I think. Those ones really shook the perception of Ubisoft down to its core. You know, it went from people sort of like just being really trustworthy of everything that they put out, but then Watch Dogs, massive disappointment. Assassin's Creed Unity, massive disappointment. And then we have a game like Far Cry 4, which is literally just Far Cry 3, but worse. And then another example that I was thinking of was The Division 1. Very, very hyped up, amazing sort of marketing and everything, but then just when the game came out, it just wasn't very good, you know? I feel like 2014, 2016, this sort of period was when the opinions really started to shift on Ubisoft, and yeah, I look forward to talking about it. Yeah, thank you all for watching. Also, a big thank you to everyone who supported my previous video. I was kind of overwhelmed. I'm very grateful as well, obviously. I hope you enjoy this one too. This will probably be the last one where it's quite happy, because it's just all downhill from there. I think it's going to be a lot of moaning for the next couple of videos, but I know people on the internet really enjoy moaning about things, and so do I as well. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and yeah, I'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks.